Warning: Geeking Poetic is a show aimed at the adult collector, and as such features adult language and humor that is not appropriate for younger audiences. Viewer discretion advised.
Welcome everybody to the Geeking Poetic channel. I'm your host Larry Roberts, and yes, this is another installment of our toy collecting centric show, none other than Geeking Poetic. For those that have seen us before, welcome back, and for those that are here for the first time, yes, I am a lifelong toy collector and I collect all different kinds, as you can see behind me. I like vintage toys, new toys, retro toys, futuristic toys. I like all of them, and today I am going to do a new toy unboxing. And specifically, I'm going to do a Hasbro Star Wars new toy unboxing. Now, what's really cool about these toys are that they are new, but they are definitely vintage retro styled, and specifically, they are made to look very much like toys that we had, or at least Gen Xers like me had, growing up back in the late 70s and the early 1980s. Several months back, Hasbro made it known that they were taking pre-orders for a few additions to their Star Wars The Vintage Collection line. And I was able to get my order in for two toys in particular. First up, I ordered the 3-pack of the Vintage Collection Stormtroopers of the Empire. Now, back in the early 80s, they came out with some really cool 3-packs that were very limited, not easy to get back in the day, and they're definitely hard to find now. But they came in a really cool window box that Kenner designed, and this is done in that style. It features a Snowtrooper, a Biker Scout, and a Sandtrooper. Now, obviously, the Sandtrooper never came out in the original Kenner line, so that is something a little bit more new. But the overall design and vibe of this is to harken back to how those old 3-packs were back in the late 70s, early 1980s. And as much as I was looking forward to getting my hands on that 3-pack, the second thing that they offered was something that I was really excited about. And what I'm talking about is the Star Wars Vintage Collection Cantina Adventure playset. Now, for those that may not realize what I'm talking about, back in the late 70s, Sears catalogs offered a playset, which really wasn't much of a playset. It was basically just a cardboard backdrop that resembled the outside of the creature cantina from the first Star Wars movie, A New Hope. And while that playset wasn't super exciting in and of itself, what made people really excited about it was that it came with 4 new action figures. At the time, these figures were not available for individual purchase. They were pre-released as part of this Sears exclusive, and they included Hammerhead, Greedo, Walrus Man, and Snaggletooth. And of course, for those of you that understand the significance of this, you know that the Snaggletooth that was included in that playset was the Blue Snaggletooth. Famously, that was erroneously done by Kenner. When Lucasfilm saw it, they said, no, that's not right. Snaggletooth is supposed to be short and he's supposed to have a red jumpsuit on. They later corrected that when they came out with the figure in its own individual packaging, so the only way you could get Blue Snaggletooth was part of the Cantina Adventure Set. Well, the original, it goes without saying, has just ballooned in price to thousands of dollars now if you want to get one in the box with all the figures. Blue Snaggletooth on his own usually fetches several $100s, so for a lot of us, it's really hard getting our hands on that. So it was particularly cool to see that they were going to do a vintage collection version of this with a Blue Snaggletooth. Additionally, while these are all vintage collection, they're not the retro collection. They're not the ones that are just 5 points of articulation like we've talked about plenty on this channel. These are made to emote that kind of vintage vibe while still having the sculpting and posability that you get from a more modern figure. And while some of these figures have already been released on their own before, they did these particular ones with this set in the vintage Kenner colors. Some people think that's great. Some people say I don't need color variations. It doesn't matter to me. Well, for me, I was really excited about it, and I have both boxes here now. They just came to me in the last couple of days, and I can't wait to open them up and share my thoughts with you for the first time here on the channel. And you know what? Enough talking. I'm too excited about this. I want to see what these toys look like. Let's get to some unboxing. All right, so first things first, I have the small box here. This should be the Stormtrooper 3-pack, so I'm going to do this one first, and we'll do the Cantina Adventure second. And yeah, let's see how they turned out. All right, box is open. And as usual, I'm going to briefly critique the inside packing of the box. It's not too bad, I guess. Hasbro's been really fond of using this style of packing lately, where they use this kind of shredded plasticky paper stuff. It's okay. It definitely prevents the toy from sliding around in the box, which is very good, but I don't know. I don't know if this is necessarily my preferred way of packing this, but it is better than having a whole bunch of like plastic foam peanuts in there, because those drive me crazy. Anyway, let's get this open and see what we have. So, all right. Well, from first impression, that looks pretty cool to me. Yeah, this is the Stormtroopers of the Empire. So as you can see there, we have the Snowtrooper on the one end and the Sandtrooper in the middle, and then the Biker Scout on the other end. Yeah, I think these are great figures. Now, I mean, these again are figures we've seen before in other packaging. There might be some paint variation and whatnot on here, but basically this is just really cool to have it in this kind of packaging. I collect the different Stormtroopers anyway. I don't have all of them because my gosh, they come out with so many of them. But yeah, this is a really, really cool pack. I'm not going to open this up because I do already have these figures individually open, so I'll put up some pictures of them individually for you to check out. But yeah, this one I basically am going to get because I want to keep it like this and put it on my shelf. And here's the back of the package. As you can see, it just has 3 simple pictures there, the multilingual description of them, and yeah, very cool. Yeah, this will look really cool on my shelf, and I'm very happy with that one. All right, so coming up next, this should be my Cantina Adventure set, so let's get it open. Okay, box should be open, and let's see what we have here. All right, so as with the Stormtrooper 3-pack, they did the same kind of internal packing here with that weird kind of corrugated paper thing happening. Okay, well, not super happy with this. First off, I don't know if this was from shipping or if this is just the way they sent it to me, but my box does have some damage on it there. You can see it's torn here. It's actually ripped. I don't know how much you can really see that, but and there's some creasing, so that's kind of a bummer. But on the other side of the box, it is nicer, so I guess if I display the box, I'll just put it up that way. Not the worst. I'm going to open this anyway, but it's one thing if I decide to destroy the box, you know what I mean? Like, if I want to crease it up and tear it up, that should be up to me. You shouldn't receive new things in damaged condition like that. I just don't think that's the way it should be. But I'm going to open this up so we can see what it looks like inside. All right, so opening the box here. All right, so the way they did this, it appears that everything is in a cardboard tray of sorts. So as you can see, box is empty. And they have the figures. This is what you'll see when you pull it out. You can see the backs of 2 of the carded figures. Yeah, I didn't mention that earlier, that when you get the 4 figures in this pack, they do come individually packaged in their own packaging with backing cards and such. Unlike the way Kenner used to do it, they very rarely, I think, ever did anything like that. Usually the figures would come in some individual baggie and then like in a small, fairly basic cardboard box. This one, at least, you do get them carded, which is nice. So first up, we have Walrus Man. Now, obviously, he doesn't look exactly like the Kenner one because he actually has the proper jacket and pants and boots. He doesn't have the silly jumpsuit look like the Walrus Man that came with the original Cantina Adventure set. But I mean, that's fine. The idea is this is still more of a technically a correct kind of Walrus Man, but he has the color scheme that is closer to what the Kenner ones were like. And I think he looks great. And as you can see, the card itself is designed to look like the vintage Star Wars Walrus Man card from 1979. However, the back of the card resembles the more modern styling with the vintage collection logo and the description of the figure and so on. So, you know, it's a little bit of both worlds. It's vintage style, retro styled, and it is the more modern style. Coming up next is Greedo. Yeah, again, this one, they made him look a little bit more like the Kenner vintage style with the colors and such, but he definitely has the more corrected type of uniform and outfit and everything. But yeah, I think he looks good. Same kind of backing, except with the Greedo picture on the back as the Walrus Man. Up next is Hammerhead, and yeah, this one probably more than any of them is the one that looks the most different from the vintage Kenner one from 79. He's got this kind of cloak robe wraparound thing on that, and not the weird unitard thing that he wore on the original figure. But again, the coloring is meant to replicate the retro vintage one. So looks cool. Card looks really cool. I think it's a great looking figure. I really like that one. I like that one best so far out of all the ones that I've pulled out. And last but not least, yes, we have Snaggletooth. And again, definitely looks different than what he wore on the original figure, but they did give him the silver boots and the blue, and you can see he's got the silver kind of buckle thing. So yeah, I mean, it's a blue Snaggletooth. It really is, but it definitely looks a little different from the original, but that's cool. That's, I think, what we all really wanted. Very happy with that. And again, the back of the package resembles the other ones, but with blue Snaggletooth featured. So then once you remove those figures, this opens up and you can access the actual backdrop playset. I don't know if you could really call it a playset. It's a backdrop, but it just folds out, and this is fairly simple the way they did this. So as you can see, this is what it looks like when it is unfolded, and this is very, very similar. I mean, it's as similar as you're gonna get while still being different. It is definitely not an exact copy of the one that came out at Christmas of 78. There's, for one thing, you notice that there are no holes in the bottom, whereas the original one had little holes that you could put white peg pieces into so that you could pose your figures on there so they would not fall over. This does not have that. It is just solid. I mean, I think the idea is these figures can stand well on their own, and they sell plenty of other little plastic stands that you can buy for your figures if you want to put them on there. It's better than putting like the little holes in there. I definitely think this is better than the way the original ones were in that regard. And yeah, so then once it's completed, this is what you get. Now, you know, again, is it perfect? No, it is definitely not perfect. It's just simple, thin cardboard. It does have some folds there so that you can bend it, and hopefully it won't warp or get funny after you've had it sitting like this for so long. But I love that the artwork on there is very, very similar to what you saw on the original. Same as what they did with the box. The artwork on the box is meant to replicate what you saw on the old Sears Kenner Cantina Adventure playset from back in the day. I love that. I love the way they showed the pictures along the sides of the box. The whole thing is meant to just bring back those memories for any of us that grew up with this or remember it, but we can't afford to spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, whatever it is, to get this mint in the box. So yeah, this is a really cool alternative for that. So overall, yeah, I'm very happy with this. This is pretty much what I was hoping for. I didn't really have any expectations of it being any more grand or anything than it is. If you're interested in either of these, I highly suggest going over to HasbroPulse.com and getting your order in, because I'll bet you as it gets closer to Christmas, some of these things are probably going to sell out, because they do make these in a limited number. And especially with that Blue Snaggletooth and as popular of a character as that is, I wouldn't be surprised if this sells out again, but I guess time will tell. And that does it for this installment of Geeking Toyetic here on the Geeking Poetic channel. Thank you so much for checking this out. Let me know your thoughts. Are you interested in these toys? Did any of you actually order these? Do you like when they do reproductions of sorts, or just reimagined versions of the vintage toys that we grew up with? Or would you rather they came out with something just completely new and let the retro stuff be what it was and just don't mess with it anymore? The retro toy thing is very popular. I do love it. I don't necessarily always want it to be an exact reproduction of the original, but when it gets close and it's faithful to the vibe of the original, I think it's a lot of fun. And I just love having things like this, because I'm going to put that Cantina Adventure backdrop up and I'm going to put a bunch of figures on there. I'm going to show a bunch of my vintage figures, actual ones from my childhood, on that backdrop, just because, I don't know, it looks cool. It's fun, like I said. Anyway, I love getting your feedback. We will be back with more toy reviews, as well as all sorts of other content that we do here on the channel, whether it's music, movies, comics, what have you. We will be back with more soon, and until then, happy hunting. I hope you find some great new toys, and I'll see you all soon. Take it easy.